the strongest sorcerer in history versus the strongest sorcerer of today.
I am really looking forward to this. Old man. Right.
Hello and welcome to another video. This time around, I'll briefly look at the shocking announcements Gojo made during their most recent stream. Usually, I don't make videos about JP streams or the latest news there, but I felt obligated since people might be rolling a lot in Code Geass, but they might change their minds after finding out the latest news. Honestly, I'm doing this video mainly because I'm very excited about the next two collabs in JP, but let me go in chronological order. First, Gojo shared some art for Ordeal Tsukuyomi, Ordeal Amaterasu, and the SN4 boss, Senshoga, which will employ the latest dismemberment mechanic. I'll talk more about that whenever I do my Monster Hunter review, since that is when we'll be first exposed to that mechanic. This title run will start on October 4th and end on the 31st in JP. One thing I am curious about SN4 is whether it will boost units with Sun or Moon Awakenings. UN4, 5, and their old versions do not give any of these bonuses, so I do wonder if SN4 will follow suit. Then, Gojo shared art for some of the new Halloween units. New seasonal units include Heraluna, Nobunaga and Nohime, Melorum, Shuri, and Elfried. This event didn't have any set date, but it will happen sometime in October, probably mid-October as usually in JP. NA usually gets this seasonal a week after release in JP, but I don't know if we will have that 1 week gap this time around since we haven't gotten Pat Island yet and it's almost October. Maybe we'll have these seasonals back to back? Gojo and A didn't mention Pat Island in their September news video, so maybe October will have these two seasonals. Who knows, maybe we'll even get the Halloween event after the actual holiday passes in NA. Then, for the biggest news of the stream, and the reason I am making this video, the Jujutsu Kaisen rerun. In 2021, JJK debuted with 17 REM units. On stream, Gojo shared art for 12 new REM units and 3 Evos for older units. The new units are Megumi and Yuji, Toro and Yuji, Gojo, Geto, Sukuna, Meimei, Nobito, Ino, Kusakabe, Choso, Grandma Ogami, and Uraume. Jogo and Mahito will have a new evolution, and Megumi will get a reincarnated Evo. This would bring the total REM units to at least 29, which is starting to feel crowded, but the latest Dengeki Bunko rerun, which is another 7 Magic Stone REM, had a total of 34 units. A lot of art for JJK was shared as opposed to what Gojo did on the last stream for Monster Hunter, so I'm not sure if this will be all the new units. I am hoping they include some units from the hidden inventory arc, like hopefully a standalone Toji unit or a Gojo and Geto KFC breakup unit. Guess we'll find out on October 1st when the collab returns to JP and all of the details are out. For all of us in NA, Code Geass will end on October 6th, so maybe wait until the 1st to decide if you want to keep rolling in Code Geass or if you rather save for JJK, or possibly the next collab after JJK, which Gojo also teased on stream. Our JJK rerun should happen sometime in December, probably around the middle or late in the month. Some details were shared on 5 units, so let me take a quick look at them. But since these are not officially released, Gojo could always tweak them based on community feedback, just like they recently buffed Ordeal Goemon. 7C, Takoyaki, and Raw Awakenings have been recently buffed in JP, so these teaser units have some of these awakenings as a way of promoting these buffs. I usually don't take tacos and rows into consideration when rating units, but I tried this time around since we'll probably be seeing them more often. I'll be taking tacos and raw awakenings into account when rating a unit's damage and utility. These awakenings increase damage for the whole team, not just for themselves, as opposed to something like a 7C. So that is my reasoning for considering those awakenings as some sort of utility. If you have some thoughts about this, please let me know in the comments. Okay, now onto the 5T's units. Jogo got a new Evo focused on fire combos and TPAs. He could do some pretty decent damage, but these type of teams don't have much going on at the moment, even after the buffs. Monster Hunter will have Rathian, but this unit looks pretty underwhelming, even though it has 5.26 effective HP. I'll do more research and take a closer look once I do my Monster Hunter review, but right off the bat, I dislike this unit's orb changing active skill. As for Jogo's active skill, it's also underwhelming. It gives a looping cap break effect for all allies and changes your board. Cap breaking to 6 billion is not the worst, but it could have been a little bit higher. The resulting board only allows for 2 GPA matches, so you'll have 2 cosmetic fire orbs. The leader skill could also be better. The effective HP is okay for a non-transforming unit, but we are trending towards 5 effective HP being the norm. The leader skill requirements remind me of Pastel, but trace a higher shield and damage multiplier for an RCB boost, which is a bad trade unless you need the recovery to tackle something like a super altitude dungeon. This is an Evo for an old unit, and unfortunately, you can't expect these new Evos or buffs to be all that groundbreaking. Jogo currently has one equip, but maybe he could get another one. Gojo didn't share his Evo tree, so who knows if he'll get more equips or other Evos. But again, it's safe to say that these potential Evos or equips will probably suck. Mahito got the same bad luck as Jogo, as this is also an underwhelming Evo. Since the JJK rerun will come after the 7C buffs, I'll denote with red stars a unit's maximal potential damage at over 14 combos. Based on just the 7Cs, PvP awakenings, and not making over 14 combos, the damage rating I would give Mahito would be 1 star, which is the lowest rating. But at 14 or more combos in a moon dungeon and with a Dark Row and PvP, my rating for his max potential damage would be 5 stars. So I added 4 red stars to denote that potential. Even if this scenario is unrealistic, it's still feasible, so I do try to make note of a unit's potential. Okay, back to Mahito. Other than his high potential damage, he doesn't really bring much to the table. His first stage active skill doesn't help much at the start of a dungeon. The final stage is not as useless, but not by much. He counters 3 debuffs, raises damage cap, and changes the board to 6x5 on a 3-turn cooldown. A whole team slot just to rebuff might be too much to ask. I guess he's not bad if you need a damage tech that can do up to 30 billion damage, but keep in mind you'll have to match a PvP, a row, and preferably 14 combos in a moon dungeon to do damage. The leader skill is alright, it's close to 5 effective HP and gives a slight HP and recovery boost. He does lack Fua, but adds 4 bonus combos, which is a decent amount for a unit with no follow-up attack. Still, I probably won't use Mahito at all, it's too much work. Todo Itadori is another attempt to make green TPAs happen, but as usual with wood units, it's a safe bet to say that these are bad. This unit will probably be the batch unit since it's 9 stars. I think it'll be similar to Lelouch and C2 and be exchangeable for 14 JJK units. Gojo seems to price batch units at around 100 stones. Like with Jogo, I think there's a Monster Hunter unit that could work with Todo Itadori. This is one of the latest light and green TPA units released that could synergize with this duo unit. But one thing that bothers me about this pairing is the fact that you can't reach 10 million Fua to deal with floor 9 in SN2. 7 million Fua is enough for SN3, so I guess if you don't care about SN2, you should be okay. Again, SN4 will debut on October 4th in JP, so we'll see if there's a minimum Fua number that is ideal in that dungeon. Maybe this unit will be fine there, but probably not. Piercers and green units are not popular, and this unit is both. New piercers seem to be getting at least 50% uptime on their effect. Maybe they should have made this unit be the first one with 100% uptime to at least make them somewhat desirable. Another recently released unit that might be able to work with Toru and Yui is Mei Mei Koro Koro Kuririn. Since this unit has a bunch of green tackles, a TPA plus, and you could system 3 of them to hopefully get decent TPA boards every turn. But do note the lack of hard orbs in the board change active skill, therefore healing will be a big issue. And also, this pairing would require dark matches. This will give 3 million more Fua so that the pair can finally reach 10 million, but I would say my $30 or fodder, unless Todo and Itadori have an insane equip, or if you really need the patch for a Gojo and or Sukuna team. Now as for Sukuna, he looks like an insane damage tech. One downside might be the lack of skillbind resist, and the delay on his pre-transformation active skill might not be all that effective in some dungeons. Also, the restriction of having at least 10 Dark Orbs may require some tinkering with equips that can create Dark Orbs and provide a haste or something else useful at the beginning of a dungeon. Yoko Spot might be an option, but that equip probably won't consistently generate at least 10 Dark Orbs. Even without reaching 14 combos and ignoring the Moon and Raw Awakenings, Sukuna will deal a lot of damage if you match a PvP. His active skill does not guarantee the 9 needed orbs for a PvP, but he's meant to support other orb generators and serve as a damage stick. Since Code Geass is ongoing, let's see if there's a unit that can synergize with Sukuna. I think only Lelouch could make use of this unit, as Lelouch could generate fewer than 6 Dark Orbs. The minimum amount of Dark Orbs you could have with these 2 units in a team is 8, so at least that's enough to activate Lelouch's leader skill. But on a Lelouch board, Sukuna will be eating 8 of your heal orbs. That is, if Lulu even gives you 8. So healing will be a major pain. Code Geass has a few other dark and or fire units, but I doubt they'll be all that useful for teams with Sukuna by the time JJK comes to NA. For a second, I also thought that Sukuna could work in a team with only 2 Millims, so you could go with Sukuna instead of Benimaru or Eurisha, but then I remembered that Milim needs power-ups too. Even though Pat Island is later than I expected it to be, I think we still should be on pace to have Halloween before NHJJK rerun happens sometime in December. That season will probably has a bunch of dark and fire units that will probably synergize well with Sukuna. Just going by art alone, it seems Elfried may be dark and fire attribute. Her GFE version scales damage with Rose, so maybe if they keep the same theme going, we'll see a scaling dark and fire Rose leader that could pair with Sukuna or use him as a sub. Gojo seems like the BGM of the collab since he looks really strong and you need multiple copies to build a system. Gojo does deal a pretty good amount of damage in Moon Dungeons, and every 3 turns, one copy can deal up to 45 billion damage. In 3 turns, he could deal up to 58 billion damage total, which isn't close to the 90 billion damage that Gino can deal in those 3 turns. But Gojo has the advantage of being dark attribute, so he doesn't have an attribute disadvantage like Gino. On the other hand, Gino as a rainbow unit with guard break deals damage that ignores enemies' defense, so the gap between these 2 units' damage will widen in dungeons with high defense enemies. The JJK rerun will coincide with the SN4 title in JP, so I do believe Gojo won't face this issue in SN4. Otherwise, people won't be incentivized to roll in this collab. That's also a possible reason why SN4 might be a Moon dungeon, since I expect JJK and Halloween to have a lot of Moon units. Like Sukuna, Gojo has an amazing leader skill with 5.26 effective HP and 10 million FUA. Some in JP have started to theorcraft Gojo Sukuna and double Gojo teams, but I think maybe Celti will be one of the best partners since she gives an HP boost. It's a bit low, but could help reach HP thresholds needed to tank hits after undead animations. Celti adds 4 combos and provides no FUA, but until we know what's needed for SN4, 10 million is more than enough. It's a bit counterintuitive to run Celti since the Gojo system generates heals every turn, so you might not need Celti's auto heal loop if you have subs with heal TPAs. But even with Celti in a team, you can still fit enough utility in the other 2 slots. Generally, you would fill the other 2 slots with a cleric and an attribute and damage absorption voider. Things might get dicey if you need a looping shield, but if you only need the shield sparingly throughout the dungeon, then your 2 other subs could have a shield as a secondary effect. My top choices right now are Pat Island Minaka and Pat Island Isis. 5x4 boards are not an issue with this team, as Gojo will generate 12 dark and 8 heal orbs, and you still have enough space to match a PDP and another dark combo. And with Celti's 4 bonus combos, you'll reach exactly 10C in these small boards. I keep mentioning BDPs, as I feel that's going to be the way to run Gojo teams. Usually for BGMs, their own equip is best in slot for them, so my guess is Gojo's equip will have a BDP and one of the recently buffed awakenings, maybe even 2. His equip could be the first double 7C and BDP equip, who knows. We'll see which other possible pairings and subs JJK or Halloween will have, but at the moment, that is my idea for a Gojo team. Some people have shared their dislike for the change the world effect, and I see their point. If you do your matches quickly, you'll have to wait around until the change the world effect is over. That's going to get annoying pretty quickly, especially in long dungeons such as the monthly level 15s or maybe SN4. Gojo will probably be able to sweep floors quickly in the SN4 title dungeon, but time will add up with each turn taking at least 12 seconds, even if you're a really fast player. Some JP players were wondering if Gojo's Change the World would be different from others, since the active skill Warring says it stops time for 12 seconds but does not say that it allows to move orbs freely. I'm sure this is just to shorten active skill tags, but people were wondering if this meant Gojo's active skill will be able to stop the in-game timer or something like that. This would help get shorter clear times in dungeons, but it would be insanely broken in ranking dungeons. Again, Gojo is probably just shortening the active skill tags as they've been doing lately. Another thing people have an issue with is his Finger Awakening, which is totally useless in a 3 Gojo team due to Change the World. Maybe Gojo will cape and change this to something else, maybe another taco. Something like a BDP would be more than ideal, but I feel they're more likely to give a taco or a raw awakening, and if that's the case, I would rather see another taco on Gojo. According to my friend, the JJK rerun probably won't have any more REM units. I never paid much attention to this, but they pointed out that by ID, new units are numbered first, and new Evos and Rebos come last for returning collabs. For example, Dengeki's new units had lower ID numbers, and all the new Evos came after. Sanrio, which is the latest REM in JP, currently has the last ID, and if we assume each unit has one equip, almost all of the IDs will be accounted for until one of the newest Evo, Mahito. Some of the new units might be 6 stars and might not have an equip like the old 6 stars, so maybe there's some space to fit in a new unit or two. Again, I do hope they add some hidden inventory units, but for now, I think this might be it for REM units. Here's my friend's predicted lineup. They do agree these 3 units are probably 6 stars, and Gojo might add more to dilute the pool. But again, maybe 29 REM units will be the final total. That wasn't all for big announcements. Gojo also teased a Digimon collab sometime this fall in JP. They only shared a teaser video without any unit details, so we don't have any info aside from it being released in the next few months. Of course, with this being a brand new collab, the big question now is whether NA will get it. I really hope we do, as Digimon Adventure 1 was one of my favorite shows growing up. I really wish the JJK and Digimon order were swapped, because in a few months, if it doesn't look like we'll be getting Digimon, then we could use up our save stones for JJK. Sometimes Gojo likes to introduce new mechanics or gimmicks with new collabs. For example, Nailors were introduced with Novara, so I wonder if they'll do anything for Digimon. The obvious guess will be something related to transformations, since I think that's the way they'll handle Digi evolutions. They could do something with evolutions, but I'd rather see transformations, since I'd like to enter a dungeon with Koromon and end it with Wargreymon. One theory I have is maybe they could implement a second transformation that requires a lot more skill boost to do a Warp Digi evolution. Let's say Koromon has a 10-turn cooldown to transform into Agumon, then Agumon has a shorter transformation cooldown to turn into Greymon, and so on. But if you have something like 40 skill boosts, you could skip the middle transformations and transform directly to Wargreymon from Koromon. I don't know if Gojo will be able to make that happen, but that's something that would be kinda cool to see. During the final part of the stream, people came up to do a multi-poll and then chose one of the 5 units to receive buffs. The chosen units were Sheet, Matcha, Yakurenku, Kamimasubi, and Celine. We now have teasers for the buffs, but maybe there could be more in store for their other Evos or equips. The most notable buffs were for Kami and Celine. Kami got a really nice boost to her stats, and her active skill cooldown was dropped to 4 turns. Celine got her experienced leader skill buffed from 1.8 to 1.9. Again, hopefully there will be more buffs, so these GFEs can see some more use. I did a lot of speculating in this video. Do you have any guesses of your own for these upcoming events? I know this video is different than usual, since I never really talk about unreleased collabs in JP in this manner, so let me know if you enjoyed the video or not. And again, it might be a good idea to wait a few days to see the full JJK details on October 1st and then decide whether to save stones or not. At the moment, it doesn't seem like Gojo and Sukuna can reach Geno's triple S tier, so it might be a better idea to keep chasing the ladder in Code Geass. Also, SN4 debuts October 4th, and while we won't know which team will be the fastest, maybe a Code Geass unit will be best in slot for some teams, and therefore you might choose to roll more in Code Geass or make some exchanges. I probably won't be making a video about those full details or for SN4, but I'll try to share any thoughts I have on the full JJK lineup or for SN4 in my community tab or during a Twitch stream, so follow me there too. Alright, that does it for this video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.